Some nations are facing crises that could spell their end. With rising tensions and collapsing economies, Europe might look drastically different in just a few years. In today's video, we'll discuss 10 European countries that will collapse in 2024, starting with number 10, United States. The United States, a global superpower, is facing alarming signs of internal collapse. What if I told you that a country with the world's largest economy and military is now struggling with some of the most severe political and social crises in its history? Let's start with political instability. In recent years, the US has witnessed increasing polarization between the left and right. This division has led to mass protests, government shutdowns, and even concerns over democratic integrity. The 2020 election, for instance, saw record high voter turnout but also widespread distrust in the electoral process. But even more shocking is that political violence is rising. In 2021 alone, there were over 500 incidents of politically motivated violence. Now, let's talk about the economy. While the US boasts a GDP of over $25 trillion, wealth inequality is at an all-time high. The top 1% of Americans own 38% of the nation's wealth, while millions struggle to make ends meet. Rising inflation and the cost of living, especially in major cities, have hit the middle class hard. In fact, as of 2023, 37 million Americans are living in poverty, and homelessness has surged by 16% in just 1 year. But wait, it gets worse. The US is also facing a healthcare crisis. Despite spending more per capita on healthcare than any other nation, millions of Americans remain uninsured or underinsured. Healthcare costs are the leading cause of bankruptcy, with nearly 530,000 families filing for bankruptcy annually due to medical expenses. The social fabric of the US is also being strained by gun violence, mass shootings, and racial tensions. As of 2024, over 45,000 gun-related deaths occur annually, making the US one of the most dangerous developed nations. If you think this is alarming, stay tuned because the rest of the list only gets more shocking. Before moving to next countries, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. It will help bring you more valuable insights like this. Number 9, Turkey. Turkey, a key player at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, is facing a rapid decline, making it one of the most unstable countries in the region. What if I told you that Turkey's economy, once thriving, is now on the brink of disaster? With political turmoil, economic struggles, and rising social unrest, the nation is teetering on the edge of collapse. One of the biggest issues is inflation. As of 2023, inflation in Turkey skyrocketed to over 85%, one of the highest in the world. Everyday goods, from food to fuel, have become unaffordable for many citizens. And even more shocking is that the Turkish lira has lost nearly 80% of its value against the US dollar over the past decade. This economic crisis has pushed millions into poverty, with unemployment rates reaching 10.3%. But the economy isn't the only issue. Politically, Turkey is deeply divided. President Erdogan's government has been accused of cracking down on opposition, limiting free speech, and undermining democratic institutions. Protests have become a common sight in cities like Istanbul and Ankara, where people demand more freedom and better living conditions. Adding to the instability is the ongoing conflict with Kurdish separatist groups in the southeast. The violence has displaced thousands of people and heightened tensions across the country. Moreover, Turkey's involvement in the Syrian civil war and tensions with neighboring Greece have further strained the nation's resources. If you think this is alarming, consider that Turkey is also grappling with a refugee crisis. The country hosts around 4 million Syrian refugees, which has strained public services and fueled anti-immigrant sentiment. Number 8, Portugal. Portugal, often known for its stunning landscapes and tourist-friendly cities, is also quietly facing some deep-rooted challenges that could threaten its future. What if I told you that beneath its calm surface, Portugal is grappling with economic troubles and a growing demographic crisis? One of the most pressing issues in Portugal is its aging population. Over 22% of Portugal's population is aged 65 or older, one of the highest percentages in Europe. With a declining birth rate and emigration of young people seeking better opportunities abroad, the country is facing a demographic collapse. But wait, it gets worse. By 2050. Experts predict that Portugal's population will shrink by over 1 million people. On the economic side, Portugal has been recovering from the financial crisis of the early 2010s, but growth remains slow. The country's public debt stands at 113% of GDP as of 2023, making it one of the most indebted nations in Europe. Unemployment has improved, but youth unemployment remains high, hovering around 20%. This economic stagnation has led many young professionals to leave the country, further accelerating the population decline. Additionally, Portugal is struggling with housing affordability. In cities like Lisbon and Porto, rising rents and property prices, driven by foreign investments and tourism, have made it nearly impossible for locals to afford homes. This has led to protests and calls for government intervention, but so far, little progress has been made. Number 7, Spain. Spain, a country known for its rich history and vibrant culture, is facing a combination combination of political, economic, and social challenges that could lead to its decline. What if I told you that Spain's economy and political unity are hanging by a thread? Economically, Spain is still struggling to recover from the 2008 financial crisis. The country's unemployment rate, while lower than its peak, is still one of the highest in Europe, sitting at 12.5% in 2023. Youth unemployment is even more shocking, standing at 29%. One of the highest rates in the European Union. This has led to a lost generation of young people unable to find stable jobs, forcing many to seek work abroad or remain dependent on their families. But Spain's problems go beyond its economy. The country is facing a political crisis as well, with growing movements for independence in regions like Catalonia. In 2017, the Catalan independence referendum caused a major political rift, and tensions remain high as regional leaders continue to push for secession. Even more concerning is the rise of far-right movements which have gained traction due to satisfaction with the government's handling of the economy and immigration. Spain is also battling one of the worst housing crises in Europe. Like Portugal, the influx of tourists and foreign investors has driven up property prices, making affordable housing a distant dream for many Spaniards. Rent has surged by 40% in some cities over the last 5 years, sparking protests across the country. Number 6. France. France, often celebrated for its culture, cuisine, and history, is facing significant challenges that could threaten its future stability. What if I told you that despite being one of the largest economies in the world, France is grappling with deep political and social unrest? One of the major issues is political instability. Over the last few years, France has seen numerous protests and strikes, particularly related to government reforms. In 2023, President Macron's controversial pension reforms sparked nationwide protests, bringing millions into the streets. The Yellow Vest movement, which started in 2018, remains active, symbolizing the growing dissatisfaction among the working class and the increasing divide between rural and urban France. Economically, France's public debt has surged, reaching over 112% of GDP as of 2023. The unemployment rate, while improving, remains high at around 7%, with youth unemployment particularly concerning. The country's social welfare system is under strain, with many questioning how long the government can continue to support its generous benefits while managing a ballooning deficit. Social inequality is also rising, with marginalized communities, particularly in the suburbs of large cities like Paris, facing high unemployment, poverty, and crime rates. This has contributed to social unrest and a growing sense of division within the country. Racial tensions, particularly in relation to immigration, have also heightened, with the far right gaining ground in recent elections. Adding to these issues is the ongoing struggle with terrorism. France has been the target of several high-profile terrorist attacks in recent years, and the threat remains a concern for both citizens and the government. Number 5. Italy. Italy, a country known for its rich history, art, and beautiful landscapes, is currently facing multiple crises that threaten its stability. What if I told you that Italy's economic troubles and political instability are pushing it closer to collapse? Italy's economy has been stagnating for years, and its public debt is one of the highest in the world, standing at around 144% of GDP in 2023. Growth has been slow, and unemployment, especially among the youth, is alarmingly high. Over 22% of young people are without work. This lack of opportunity has led many young Italians to seek employment abroad, causing a brain drain that is further weakening the economy. Politically, Italy has experienced extreme volatility, with numerous governments collapsing in recent years. The country's coalition governments are often unstable, leading to frequent elections and political gridlock. This has hampered Italy's ability to address pressing issues like economic reforms and immigration. The rise of populist and far-right movements, such as Matteo Salvini's Lega, has further polarized the country, making it difficult for any government to maintain long-term stability. Adding to Italy's troubles is the aging population. Over 23% of Italy's population is aged 65 or older, one of the highest proportions in Europe. This demographic shift is putting immense pressure on the country's pension and healthcare systems, which are struggling to keep up with the needs of an aging society. Italy is also grappling with the effects of climate change. In recent years, the country has faced more frequent and severe floods, droughts, and heat waves, particularly in regions like Venice, which is at risk of sinking due to rising sea levels. Number 4. Greece. Greece, once the cradle of Western civilization, has been battling severe economic and social crisis for over a decade. What if I told you that despite recent efforts, Greece is still struggling to recover from its financial collapse? The most pressing issue for Greece is its economy. After the devastating financial crisis in 2009, Greece was forced to take massive loans from international organizations, leading to austerity measures that crippled the nation. As of 2023, Greece's public debt stands at around 180% of GDP, one of the highest in the world. While the country has made progress in stabilizing its economy, unemployment remains high at 11%, and poverty rates have skyrocketed. Many Greeks, particularly young people, have left the country in search of better opportunities, further straining the nation's workforce. Politically, Greece remains unstable. The financial financial crisis severely undermined trust in the government, and political divisions have deepened over the years. The rise of far-right movements, such as Golden Dawn, which gained significant support during the crisis, has further polarized the country. Although the party was disbanded, the sentiment remains, with anti-immigrant and nationalist rhetoric still prevalent. Socially, Greece has faced immense pressure from the ongoing refugee crisis. As one of the primary entry points into Europe for refugees from the Middle East and Africa, Greece has struggled to manage the influx. The refugee camps on islands like Lesbos are overcrowded, and local communities are feeling the strain. This has led to social unrest and tensions between the Greek population and refugees. Number 3. Belarus. Belarus, often referred to as Europe's last dictatorship, is currently facing significant political, economic, and social challenges. Known for its strong industrial sector and proximity to Russia, Belarus is a critical player in Eastern Europe. However, the country has been embroiled in deep political unrest, especially since the disputed 2020 presidential elections, where President Alexander Lukashenko claimed victory amidst widespread accusations of electoral fraud. Political instability is the most pressing issue facing Belarus. The 2020 protests saw hundreds of thousands of citizens take to the streets, demanding democratic reforms and the resignation of Lukashenko. The government's harsh response, which included mass arrests, media censorship, and violent crackdowns, has drawn international condemnation. As of 2024, political repression remains rampant, with opposition leaders either in jail or exiled and civil liberties severely curtailed. Economically, Belarus is heavily reliant on Russia, which provides significant financial support and energy resources. However, this dependency has also limited the country's economic autonomy. Belarus' GDP growth has stagnated and inflation has risen, reaching nearly 12% in 2023. The economy is further strained by Western sanctions, imposed due to the government's human rights abuses and support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. These sanctions have cut Belarus off from critical international markets, leading to further economic hardship. Socially, the country is deeply divided, with many Belarusians frustrated by the lack of political freedom and economic opportunities. Emigration is on the rise, particularly among young people who are seeking better opportunities abroad. Despite these challenges, the future of Belarus remains uncertain. Without significant political reform, the country is likely to continue facing instability. Number 2. Ukraine. Ukraine, a country known for its rich history, fertile lands, and strategic position in Eastern Europe, is facing one of the most challenging periods in its history. The ongoing war with Russia, which began in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and escalated in 2022 with a full-scale invasion, has devastated the country both economically and socially. The most significant issue for Ukraine is the war, which has resulted in massive loss of life, displacement of millions, and widespread destruction of infrastructure. As of 2024, large parts of eastern Ukraine remain under Russian occupation, and cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut have been heavily damaged. The war has also disrupted the country's economy, with GDP contracting by nearly 30% in 2022. Inflation has soared, and millions of Ukrainians have fled the country, leading to a brain drain and a labor break. Politically, Ukraine has strengthened its ties with the West, particularly the European Union NATO, as it seeks to defend itself against Russian aggression. However, the country remains deeply divided, with Russian-speaking regions in the east harboring pro-Russian sentiments, while the west of the country leans more toward Europe. Corruption, which has been a long-standing issue in Ukraine, has not disappeared, and rebuilding the country after the war will require massive investments and structural reforms. Socially, Ukraine faces a humanitarian crisis. Millions of Ukrainians are displaced both within and outside the country, and the healthcare system is under severe strain. The war has also taken a heavy psychological toll on the population, with many citizens experiencing trauma from the ongoing conflict. Number 1. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, famous for its rich history, cultural influence, and global presence, is facing several pressing challenges that are impacting its position on the world stage. Known for institutions like the monarchy, the NHS, and being a financial hub, the UK is grappling with a mix of political, economic, and social turmoil. Politically, the UK has faced significant instability in recent years, particularly after Brexit. The decision to leave the European Union in 2016 has had lasting consequences, leading to political divisions, both within the government and among the public. The UK has seen multiple prime ministers in just a few years, reflecting a broader sense of political uncertainty. Scotland's push for independence and the unresolved tensions in Northern Ireland further exacerbate this instability. Economically, the UK is experiencing a cost of living crisis, with inflation reaching its highest levels in decades. The economic fallout from Brexit, combined with the global pandemic and the war in Ukraine, has strained the country's resources. As of 2024, many households are struggling to afford basic necessities, and energy prices have skyrocketed, causing widespread discontent. The healthcare system, the NHS, is also under significant pressure, with long wait times and funding shortfalls leading to a decline in the quality of care. Socially, the UK is facing rising inequality, with many feeling left behind in the wake of economic and political upheavals. The younger generation, in particular, is facing challenges in finding affordable housing and stable employment, leading to growing frustration and dissatisfaction. The rise of populist movements and anti-immigration sentiments have also contributed to a more divided society. While the UK remains a global powerhouse, these challenges are testing its resilience. What do you think about the issues facing the UK today? How can the country address these challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments. As we've discussed, the issues facing these countries are vast, and one of the major issues many are grappling with is immigration. Countries are increasingly finding it difficult to manage the influx of immigrants, and some have taken drastic measures. I've made a video that you can find on the end screen about 10 countries that have literally banned immigrants and are even sending back those who have already arrived. This video will absolutely blow your mind as it covers how these countries are tackling this pressing issue. Click on that video to learn more about how these governments are addressing immigration head-on.